The skies over Earth darkened as an unknown enemy approached, their fleet silent and relentless. The alien empire, having conquered countless worlds before, had set its sights on humanity. Their weapon was terrifying and simple: the oxygen bomb. It was a weapon of destruction unlike any other, designed to remove all oxygen from the atmosphere, suffocating every living being. To the aliens, it was a foolproof plan. Earth had no chance of surviving. The first bombs fell like rain. Across major cities, people watched in horror as the sky began to shimmer and turn a dull, unnatural hue. Scientists and engineers raced to understand what was happening. It was only a matter of time before the oxygen began to vanish, leaving the Earth's population to suffocate in a matter of hours. The cities fell into chaos. People screamed in panic, trying to escape the deadly clouds of oxygen-deprived air. Some ran into underground bunkers, but they quickly realized that those wouldn't save them. The air in these shelters began to thin too. It wasn't just the people that were in danger. The very plants and animals that sustained them were dying, too. Earth seemed on the brink of destruction. Yet the aliens watched in silence from above. They expected the human race to collapse. The oxygen bombs were designed to wipe out everything: the ecosystems, the cities, the very breath of life. With such a sophisticated weapon, they had no doubt that Earth would be just another planet to fall before their empire's might. But something strange began to happen. As the oxygen levels continued to drop, there was no immediate panic. Instead, there was a strange calm. People weren't just giving up. They were thinking. Scientists worked together, pooling their resources and knowledge. Nations once divided now came together with a singular purpose: survival. In laboratories, engineers and biologists worked non-stop, studying the effects of the oxygen bombs. They quickly realized that the bombs didn't remove all oxygen at once. They just reduced it to a level that no human could survive. This discovery led to the development of emergency systems that could generate artificial oxygen in controlled environments. Across the world, people began using whatever they could to stay alive. Makeshift oxygen generators were built, and cities began to adapt to their new reality. The air was thinner and life wasn't easy, but humanity had not yet given up. A new sense of unity began to rise. People from every corner of the Earth worked together, sharing knowledge and resources in an unprecedented show of solidarity. The aliens, however, had not expected this. They had planned for human extinction, not human resilience. As the days passed, their expectations began to shatter. Earth was not giving up. Instead, humans were finding ways to survive, adapting to their new world. And as the aliens looked on from their ships, a sense of doubt began to creep into their minds. Could it be possible that Earth was stronger than they had thought? Could humanity really survive the oxygen bombs? This was just the beginning. By Diao, aliens may have thought they had delivered the final blow to Earth, but the human spirit would not be so easily extinguished. As the days passed after the oxygen bombs fell, the world was on the edge. People were struggling to breathe, and life, as it once was, seemed to be slipping away. The air was thick with fear, but also with determination. Humanity had faced many challenges before, but this was different. The survival of the entire planet was at stake, and yet, in the face of this unimaginable crisis, the human spirit refused to break. Across the globe, scientists and engineers worked tirelessly, racing against time. The world's best minds gathered to solve a problem that seemed impossible. Oxygen was being drained from the atmosphere, and humanity was running out of time. But humanity's greatest strength had always been its ability to adapt and find solutions in the most desperate of situations. In underground bunkers, the hum of machines filled the air. Engineers had quickly devised oxygen generators that could produce life-giving air from the few remaining resources available. These machines were primitive at first, but they were enough to provide small pockets of breathable air. Cities that were once teeming with life now became quiet, but there was still hope. Governments, once divided by borders and conflicts, came together to focus on one goal: survival. People worked together like never before. The rich and the poor, the young and the old, all had to rely on one another. A unity began to emerge that the world had never seen before. Families huddled together in shelters, sharing food and water, keeping each other alive. The sound of children laughing in the face of adversity became a symbol of hope as they continued to play in whatever air they could find. Meanwhile, military leaders coordinated efforts to maintain order and protect the most vulnerable. Troops worked with scientists to secure safe zones where the oxygen levels were still high enough to survive. These zones became lifelines, allowing people to escape the worst of the suffocation outside. Yet even here, there was still tension. The oxygen in these pockets was rapidly depleting and more solutions were needed. Around the world, farmers and agricultural experts began to work on creating oxygen-producing plants and trees. They used what little was left of Earth's plant life to develop new ways to purify the air. It was not a perfect solution, but it was enough to start the process of healing the planet. As the world adapted, news of humanity's survival began to spread. Countries that had once been rivals now offered help. The need for survival was greater than the need for war. The global community had changed in a matter of days. The oxygen bombs had almost brought the world to its knees, but instead of collapsing, humanity had begun to rebuild. The aliens, observing from their ships, were beginning to question their assumptions. They had expected Earth to fall, to be consumed by the deadly bomb. Instead, they found themselves facing a planet that was fighting back with everything it had. They had underestimated the human spirit. While the aliens had expected Earth to crumble, humanity was proving that even in the darkest of times it would find a way to survive. The battle for Earth was not over, but the tide was beginning to turn. The aliens had made one critical mistake. They had thought they could break humanity. They were wrong. As the days turned into weeks, Earth began to show signs of life. Despite the destruction caused by the oxygen bombs, something incredible was happening. While many humans had struggled to survive in the initial aftermath, a few began to display unexpected resilience. These survivors, whom the world had not yet noticed, began to emerge as symbols of hope. They were not only surviving the low oxygen atmosphere, but they were thriving in it. At first, it seemed like a miracle. People who had been exposed to the low oxygen air began to show signs of enhanced strength and endurance. They could walk longer distances without gasping for breath, and their physical abilities seemed to improve. Scientists were baffled. How could this be possible? They had expected humans to grow weaker in the harsh conditions, but instead some individuals appeared to be adapting to the new environment faster than others. These humans, who had been exposed to the oxygen bombs for prolonged periods, became known as the adapted. They were different from everyone else. Their bodies had somehow evolved to thrive in an environment that should have been deadly. The adapted could breathe in the thin air with ease, and their physical stamina had increased to remarkable levels. What was even more surprising was their mental abilities. They seemed to think faster, their minds sharper and more focused. News of these unexpected survivors spread quickly. Scientists, doctors, and military leaders were amazed, but they also saw the potential in these adapted humans. They realized that these individuals could be the key to Earth's survival. As they studied the adapted, it became clear that the human body, given enough time and necessity, could adapt in ways no one had anticipated. The adapted became leaders in their communities. Their strength and intelligence were unmatched, and they began to help others survive in the increasingly difficult environment. They worked alongside engineers and scientists to develop new technologies and strategies for survival. Their unique abilities allowed them to contribute in ways that no one had ever imagined. While the rest of humanity struggled to adapt to the low oxygen atmosphere, the adapted seemed to flourish. They became the foundation for humanity's hope. As more and more people came into contact with the adapted, it became clear that Earth's survival was no longer in doubt. These new human survivors were proof that humanity was capable of overcoming even the most extreme challenges. The alien forces, watching from their distant ships, were stunned. They had expected humans to perish quickly, to be wiped out by the oxygen bombs. Instead, they were seeing something they could never have predicted. The humans were not just surviving, they were thriving. The very people they had hoped would Collapse under pressure were proving to be stronger than ever. The aliens had made a critical mistake in their calculations. They had underestimated the strength of humanity. Earth was no longer a dying world. It was a world that was rising from the ashes. The adapted humans were the living proof of human resilience, and they were about to change the course of the war. As the weeks turned into months, Earth's survival took a new shape. The adapted, once a small group of people with strange abilities, had become the cornerstone of humanity's new defense against the alien invaders. With their enhanced physical and mental capabilities, they led efforts to rebuild society, protect their people, and prepare for a counterattack against the aliens who had once believed they would watch Earth burn. Humanity had faced many challenges before, but now it was fighting on a new front. Earth's technological advancements, once lagging behind the rest of the galaxy, had taken an unexpected leap. The scientists who had been working tirelessly to keep people alive now turned their focus to developing new weapons, powered by the very oxygen-producing technologies that had saved Earth. These weapons were unlike anything the aliens had ever seen, designed not only to protect but to fight back. The adapted, with their extraordinary strength and intelligence, became the natural leaders of this new human military. Their ability to withstand the harsh conditions of the low oxygen atmosphere gave them an edge in combat. They were faster, stronger, and more adaptable than the average human. Training camps were set up, and soon human soldiers, trained by the adapted, were able to hold their own against the alien forces. The world's largest cities, once destroyed by the oxygen bombs, became military hubs, where humans from all walks of life came together to fight for their survival. The military strategy was unlike anything the aliens had expected. Earth, now united as never before, began organizing its forces into smaller, more agile units. The adapted led these units in guerrilla-style warfare, using the knowledge they had gained from living through the oxygen bombs to their advantage. The alien ships, which had once hovered high above Earth's atmosphere, were no longer the untouchable giants they had once been. The human resistance began to chip away at the alien fleet, targeting their weak points with precision and speed. The alien commanders were baffled. Their strategy had been flawless until now. They had planned for a quick and easy victory, expecting Earth to fall without a fight. But instead, the humans were not just surviving. They were learning, adapting, and fighting back. The adapted humans had given them the edge they needed. They had transformed the battlefield into a place where the aliens no longer had the advantage. The alien empire, once so confident in its power, began to question everything. What had started as a mission to destroy Earth had now become a fight for survival. The humans were showing no signs of surrender. In fact, they were more determined than ever to defend their planet. As the first few skirmishes turned into full-scale battles, the aliens realized that they had made a critical mistake. They had underestimated the strength of human ingenuity and resilience. Earth was no longer a helpless, dying world. It had become a planet on the rise, its people united and strong. The battle for Earth had just begun, but now, the humans were ready for whatever the alien empire threw at them. And the aliens, who had once believed Earth would fall easily, now faced a force unlike any they had ever encountered. As humanity's resistance grew stronger, the alien empire found itself in a crisis. What had started as a simple mission to wipe out a weak planet had turned into a full-scale war. The human soldiers, led by the adapted, were pushing back with every passing day, showing strength and intelligence that the aliens had never expected. It became clear to the alien commanders that Earth was no longer a planet they could easily conquer. The humans were fighting with a determination that struck fear into their hearts. The alien leadership, once united in their confidence, began to fracture. Some commanders insisted on continuing the war, confident that the vast alien fleet would eventually crush the humans. "We are the superior species," they argued. "Humans are weak. Their fight will not last." Others, however, began to see the truth. The human resistance was not only surviving, they were thriving. The adapted humans, with their enhanced strength and intelligence, had turned the tide of the war. The human fleet, now organized and trained, was striking alien ships with surprising effectiveness. The alien commanders had underestimated their enemy, and now they were paying the price. In the alien capital, the Queen and her council debated the next move. The Queen, a ruthless leader known for her cold calculations, was not one to admit defeat easily. But even she could see that the humans were different from the other species they had conquered. The aliens had expected to destroy Earth quickly and move on to their next conquest. Instead, Earth had become a thorn in their side, and the longer they fought, the more it seemed that the humans would not be so easily defeated. "We cannot continue to fight them this way," the Queen said, her voice cold but filled with a rare hint of uncertainty. "Their resolve is stronger than we anticipated. Perhaps we have miscalculated." Her advisors looked uneasy, but many were still unwilling to entertain the idea of backing down. "What will we do if we stop the war now? Earth will become a powerful force in the galaxy. They must be destroyed before they grow too strong." The Queen hesitated. The war was costly, and the longer it dragged on, the more the alien empire risked. She knew that every day of fighting weakened their position. The idea of negotiating with the humans, once anathema to her, now seemed like a possibility. Perhaps it was time to consider a new strategy, one where the alien empire would have to accept a certain amount of humility. As the debate raged on, the humans continued to fight with everything they had. The Adapted led the charge, training more soldiers and refining their tactics. Human ingenuity, combined with the strength of the Adapted, had transformed Earth into a formidable opponent. The alien empire's once unshakable confidence was now eroding, and they were beginning to question whether they could win this war. Meanwhile, on Earth, the human leadership saw the growing doubt among the aliens as an opportunity. If the Queen and her commanders were weakening in their resolve, it was time for humanity to press forward and make their final stand. Earth's forces were ready, and their message was clear. The aliens had underestimated humanity, and now they would pay the EI price. As Earth's forces grew stronger, it became clear that humanity was not just surviving the alien invasion, they were learning how to fight back. With every passing day, the resistance gained confidence and strength, and the humans' resolve only solidified. The Adapted humans, those who had once been seen as anomalies, were now at the forefront of Earth's counteroffensive. Their enhanced strength, intelligence, and ability to thrive in low-oxygen environments made them the perfect leaders in this fight. The human fleet, once small and disorganized, had been rebuilt from the ground up. It was now a force to be reckoned with. New ships, powered by the same oxygen-producing technology that had saved Earth, were equipped with advanced weapons that were unlike anything the alien empire had seen before. Earth's military strategy had evolved into something unexpected. Agile, swift units that struck hard and fast. The aliens, who had once believed they could wipe out humanity without resistance, now found themselves under attack. The first major human counterattack came when the alien fleet, which had been hovering over Earth's orbit for months, attempted to land on the planet's surface once again. The aliens thought they could easily crush any human resistance they encountered, but they were wrong. Led by the Adapted, the human forces launched a daring surprise attack on the alien ships. The human fleet, using guerrilla tactics, ambushed the alien forces in Earth's orbit. The aliens were caught off guard, as human ships, equipped with advanced weapons and maneuvering technology, began to strike with precision. Human pilots, trained in the harsh conditions of Earth's new low-oxygen atmosphere, proved to be skilled in combat. They used the environment to their advantage, attacking the alien ships from unexpected angles. The battle was fierce, but for the first time the humans were winning. The alien ships, once thought to be nearly invincible, began to fall. The human forces, despite their smaller numbers, fought with a fierce determination. They knew that if they didn't strike now, they might lose everything. The Adapted led the charge, using their strength and enhanced abilities to board alien vessels and disable them from the inside. The aliens, who had always been confident in their technological superiority, were now reeling. Their once invincible fleet was being torn apart by the human resistance. The first alien ship to fall was a symbol of humanity's defiance. As it crashed into Earth's atmosphere, the surviving alien soldiers aboard were taken captive. The aliens had never expected to face such fierce opposition from the humans they had once considered weak. On Earth, the news of the victory spread, like wildfire. People who had once been afraid of the alien invaders now saw that there was hope. The human resistance, once a fragile group of survivors, had become a united force capable of defeating the alien invaders. It was a moment of triumph, but the humans knew that the battle was far from over. This was just the beginning. The aliens, in shock from their first major defeat, began to rethink their strategy. What had once seemed like an easy victory was now a struggle for survival. The balance of power had shifted, and the galaxy was now watching as humanity stood its ground against the empire that had once believed it could destroy them. The war was far from over, but for the first time, humanity had proven that they could fight back, and they would not back down. The days after the first major human victory were filled with both hope and caution. Earth had struck back, and the world was in a state of celebration. News of the defeat of the alien fleet spread like wildfire, giving humans everywhere a renewed sense of purpose. The aliens, who had once been so confident in their superiority, were now forced to reconsider their entire approach to the war. The balance of power had shifted, and humanity was no longer the weak, defenseless species they had once believed them to be. On Earth, the adapted humans were now celebrated as heroes. Their extraordinary strength and abilities had made them key figures in the ongoing battle. They led the human military with remarkable skill, training new soldiers to fight in ways the alien invaders had never expected. The technology humans had developed in response to the oxygen bombs was now fully integrated into their military efforts. Every piece of weaponry, every tactical advantage was built with one goal in mind: defeating the alien invaders and protecting the planet. The human resistance was no longer a scattered group of survivors. It was a well-organized, disciplined force capable of taking on the alien empire head-to-head. But the war was still far from over. The aliens, though stunned by the first loss, were far from defeated. They were regrouping, reassessing their strategy, and preparing for the next wave of battle. In the alien council chambers, there was no longer talk of easy victories. The empire was in a state of crisis, and the once united front of alien leadership was now divided. Some alien commanders still believed that they could win the war if they pushed harder. They argued that the human success was just a fluke, a lucky break. With more advanced forces and a larger fleet, they would crush humanity once and for all. Others, however, saw the truth. The humans had something the aliens hadn't anticipated: resilience. The first loss had shaken the empire, and the aliens knew that they were now facing a species that would not back down. Meanwhile, humanity's resolve only grew stronger. The humans were not only fighting for survival, they were fighting for their future, their families, and the freedom of their planet. The adapted, leading the charge, became the face of this new era. They had evolved beyond ordinary humans, and their abilities were unmatched. But more importantly, they had something the aliens could never understand: an unbreakable spirit. As Earth's forces prepared for the next battle, the aliens continued to underestimate humanity. They focused on their advanced weaponry and massive fleets, while humanity focused on strategy and unity. The human forces, now trained in guerrilla tactics and enhanced by the adapted, knew how to fight smart, not just hard. The aliens, on the other hand, were beginning to feel the weight of their mistake. The more they tried to crush Earth, the more they realized that humanity's resistance wasn't going to end with one victory. It was just the beginning. The shifting balance of power was undeniable. Humanity, once thought weak and insignificant, had shown that it could not only survive but thrive under pressure. And now, the galaxy was watching to see just how far humanity would go to defend its home. The war was far from over, but humanity had proven one crucial point: they were not going down without a fight. The aliens, now on the defensive, had underestimated the power of the human will. The balance had shifted, and the next phase of the war was about to begin. As the war dragged on, the alien queen, once confident in her empire's unstoppable power, found herself in a difficult position. The humans had defied every expectation. They had adapted, fought back, and even won their first major victory. The alien forces, despite their superior technology and vast numbers, were struggling to hold their ground. The queen knew that the longer the war continued, the more it would cost her empire. She could feel the balance of power shifting in humanity's favor, and that terrified her. In the alien capital, the queen sat in her private chambers, surrounded by her most trusted advisors. The room was dimly lit, the air cold and sterile. Her sharp, angular features were twisted with frustration and doubt. For the first time, the queen, who had never questioned her decisions, began to wonder if the war was worth it. She had underestimated humanity, and now the alien empire was paying the price. "How could we have been so wrong?" she muttered to herself, her voice a low, dangerous hiss. Her eyes flickered with anger as she looked out the window at the stars. "We thought they would fall without a fight, but instead, they rise. They adapt." Her chief strategist, a cold and calculating officer, stood at attention. "Your Majesty, the human resistance is still small. Their victories, though significant, are isolated. We still have the upper hand in numbers and firepower. If we focus our efforts, we can wipe them out." The queen's gaze remained fixed on the stars. She was not convinced. "The longer we fight, the more they learn, the more they adapt. We cannot keep throwing forces at them and expect victory. They are becoming stronger, and we are becoming weaker." The queen turned to face her council, her eyes burning with frustration. "I will not let this rebellion cost us everything. It is time to end this. We need to consider another approach." Her most trusted advisor, a dark-skinned alien with long, flowing tendrils, stepped forward. "What do you suggest, Your Majesty? Should we retreat? Should we negotiate?" The queen's eyes narrowed. "Retreat? Never. But negotiation, that might be our only choice." She paused, considering the possibility. "Send an emissary. I will offer them peace, but on our terms. If they accept, we end this war before it destroys us all." The council was silent. They had never seen the queen so uncertain. She had always been a fierce and unwavering leader, but now she was willing to consider negotiation. The alien empire, once proud and unyielding, was starting to crack under, the pressure of a fight they never expected to lose. "Prepare the emissary," the queen ordered, her voice cold but resolute. "Tell the humans that we are willing to discuss terms, but make it clear. This is not a surrender. This is a demand. If they do not accept, we will destroy them." As the emissary prepared to depart, the queen sat back in her throne, staring out at the stars. She had not expected to come to this point. She had thought humanity would be an easy conquest, a quick victory. But now, it seemed that the humans had something the alien empire could never possess: the will to survive. And that, the queen realized, was the greatest strength of all. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as the alien emissary arrived on Earth. It was an unprecedented moment. An alien empire that had once planned to destroy humanity was now offering peace, or at least a chance to negotiate. The human leaders, cautious but determined, had heard the news. The war had raged for months, and now the queen herself was willing to consider talks. For the first time, the humans saw a glimmer of hope. But there was something else in the air, a deep sense of triumph. The emissary, a high-ranking alien officer, was greeted by Earth's best diplomats. They had no illusions about the aliens' true intentions. This was not a gesture of goodwill. It was a desperate move. The humans, however, were not willing to back down. They had fought too hard and too long to simply accept surrender. The battle for Earth had been long, but now the human resolve would determine what came next. The emissary's message was clear. The alien queen offers peace, but on her terms. She demands that Earth accept the terms of surrender or face annihilation. The alien officer's words were cold, full of arrogance. The Queen expects nothing less than total submission from your people. For a moment, the room was silent. The human leaders, including generals and diplomats, exchanged glances. They had been pushed to the brink, forced to fight for survival. But now they realized that they held the power. The aliens had come to them, not the other way around. The head of Earth's military forces, General Carter, stepped forward. His face was grim, but his voice was steady. Tell your queen this. Earth does not surrender. We will negotiate only if she agrees to the terms we set. If she wants peace, she must recognize that humanity is no longer the weak species she thought it was. We have fought for our survival, and we will continue to fight for our future. The emissary seemed taken aback by the boldness of the humans. He had expected fear, perhaps hesitation, but not defiance. You are making a mistake, he warned. The Queen will not tolerate such insolence. General Carter's gaze was unyielding. The mistake was yours, not ours. You came to Earth expecting easy prey. You underestimated us, and now you will learn that humanity does not bow to threats. We fight. The emissary's expression darkened, but he said nothing more. He turned and left, carrying Earth's response to the alien Queen. The human leaders knew that this could either be the beginning of the end of the war, or a challenge that would push them into an even more dangerous battle. Back on Earth, the news spread quickly. People who had been living in fear for months now held their heads high. They had faced the impossible, and they had shown the universe that they were not to be underestimated. The war had not broken them, it had only made them stronger. As the alien emissary returned to his fleet, the Queen received the message. She listened in silence as her officer relayed the human's response. The Queen's eyes narrowed. She had not expected this level of defiance, but deep down she realized the truth. The humans were no longer just survivors. They were warriors, and they had won more than just a battle. They had won their place in the galaxy. The alien Queen, knowing that she had little choice but to respect humanity's strength, issued a new order. The war would end, but the terms would be negotiated on Earth's terms. Earth's victory was now a reality, and the aliens had no choice but to accept the new order. Earth had stood tall. It had survived, adapted, and fought back. The alien empire had underestimated humanity, and now they were forced to live with the consequences. The humans had won their freedom. The war that had once seemed endless was now over. The alien Queen, realizing the strength of humanity, had agreed to end the conflict. Earth had stood its ground, defying the impossible and forcing the alien empire to the negotiating table. The victory was not just a military triumph, but a symbol of human resilience, unity, and determination. The galaxy would never forget the day when humanity proved that it could not be crushed, no matter the odds. On Earth, the atmosphere was electric. People who had once lived in fear of the alien invaders now celebrated in the streets. The world, once divided, had come together like never before. The alien threat was gone, and humanity had emerged stronger than ever. Leaders from every nation, once isolated by borders and differences, stood side by side as a symbol of Earth's newfound unity. General Carter, who had led the human forces through the darkest days of the war, stood on a stage in front of a massive crowd. His face, though tired, was filled with pride. Today, he began, his voice carrying through the air, we stand as one. Today we show the galaxy that humanity will never back down. We fought, we survived, and we won. This is our victory. This is the beginning of a new era. The crowd erupted in cheers. They had earned this moment. The sacrifices of soldiers, the scientists who had developed new technologies, and the civilians who had supported the war effort. Everyone had contributed to this victory. It was a collective triumph, one that would be remembered for generations. But the celebration was tempered with awareness. The war had been won, but the aftermath would not be easy. Earth's landscape had been scarred by months of conflict. Cities lay in ruins, and many lives had been lost. Rebuilding would take time, but the human spirit was unstoppable. With the defeat of the alien invaders, Earth now had the chance to rebuild and shape its own destiny. Humanity's victory did not just change life on Earth, it also altered the balance of power in the galaxy. The alien empire, once a force that had crushed countless civilizations, now had to face the reality that humanity was not to be underestimated. Other alien species who had watched from afar now saw Earth in a new light. No longer would humans be viewed as weak or insignificant. They had proven their strength, and that strength would be respected. The alien queen, who had once believed that her empire would dominate the galaxy, now found herself facing a very different future. Her decision to negotiate with Earth was a humbling one. She had underestimated humanity, and now she had no choice but to accept the new reality. Earth had not only survived, it had thrived, and its influence would extend far beyond its home planet. As Earth began the process of rebuilding, the adapted, those who had shown incredible strength and resilience, became the new leaders of this growing world. Their abilities, once thought to be freakish, were now seen as a symbol of the human spirit. They led humanity into a new age of technology, peace, and exploration. Humanity's victory was a testament to what could be achieved when people came together, no matter the odds. The war had been long and hard, but it had made humanity stronger, wiser, and more united than ever before. Earth was no longer a planet on the verge of collapse. It was a thriving world, ready to take its place among the stars. The galaxy now knew that humanity was not a species to be feared, but one to be respected. And for the first time, humanity truly understood its own power. The future was theirs to shape, and they would never forget the price they had paid for their freedom.